and we'll look at some problems here together. So we're still kind of in this like factoring unit, and there's all these different types of factoring. So completing the square is one of them, and it goes with the perfect square trinomial. These are the names you would see. Okay, so let's look at this problem here. So let's say I've got x squared minus 18x, and we need to fill in the number right here. All right. So normally I give you the answer and you work backwards, but to figure out the number that goes here, okay, there's a couple of things you have to do. The first is you have to take minus 18 and divide it by 2. So you always cut this number in half. Sometimes it's referred to as b. Okay, and that's minus 9, and then you square it. Now you square the whole thing. So that's minus 9 squared, which becomes positive 81. Okay, now let's talk about why this is a perfect square trinomial, because it's like I'm giving you the answer, but it's like, now why is that a perfect square trinomial? So you start with the trinomial again, and you have to take the square root of the first term and the square root of the last term. Okay, the square root of x squared is always x, square root of 81 is 9, and then you merge them together, so you get 9x. But then you double it to get 18x, which matches this right here. Does this at all look familiar to you?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay. So let's try another one here. Let's try something like this. Like, let's say it's x squared plus 16x plus blank. Okay. So to figure out what goes in this position right here, you take this b, this number in front of x, you divide it by 2 and then square it. Okay, so what is 16 divided by 2 and then squared? Can you tell me that?
8.
16 divided by 2 is 8, but now when you square it, what does it become?
8 times 8 is 64.
64. Very good. Okay, now we just check it. We check it. This is all this next step is making sure that it's okay. You take the square root of the first term, the square root of the last term. So you get 8x, right? They come in opposite positions. And then when you double it now, do you get back to this?
Yeah.
The answer is yes. Yes, you do. Okay. Now, in terms of like what I'm seeing for problems for you, okay, it looks more like this. They give you a problem. They say, all right, it's x squared minus 10x plus 1. Okay. And what you have to do to be able to do this problem is you need to basically take this 1 right here and you just get rid of it for the moment. You just like put it off to the side, or, you know, and really like leave in that empty space. Okay. And the number that goes to that empty space is this b divided by 2 squared.
25.
It's 25, right? Now, the problem is you already have 1 though. So you don't have to add 25 now because you already had 1. So if you already have 1 and you want to get to 25, what should you add?
24.
24, yeah. Okay, so it looks like you've got a few problems like that where they're sort of trying to be distracting here with this. So this completing the square is kind of, it's an important topic. It's one you see a lot in Algebra 1, and then it comes back again in other courses. Let me go to the other assignment now and just see what I see before I give you any more examples here of this. Did you get any Halloween candy yesterday, or are you too old for that?
I stole some from my brother.
Good. That's why you have a little brother. You tell him to get double for you, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite candy?
Yes, whoppers.
Whoppers. Okay. Fantastic.
What's yours?
I like white Reese's. So like the pumpkins and the ghosts and
Oh,
and the
yeah.
trees.
My
Yeah.
brother didn't get any.
Yeah, they're hard to find, the white ones. They usually just go with the regular brown peanut butter, boring brown peanut butter ones.
Yeah, we got tons of those. They don't like them.
All right, so let me grab a question here. Yeah, so okay. So you're in sort of this completing the square, and I guess I need to show you some examples of how to do this. Unfortunately, it looks like they do a lot of the more difficult type. So it's the instructions say use the expression to complete the square. All right, now this is maybe slightly different than you saw in your notes, but it's a good method. Stand behind it. So you always set this equal to 0. Whatever your equation is expression, you always set equal to 0. And then that's what I was trying to show you in the previous problem. You actually move this, whatever this number is, and you move it over. So it's x squared minus 18x, leave a space, equals 6. Remember how in the first few problems I put this placeholder here and I would ask you to figure out what goes in that position? Well, you actually have 2 placeholders and they're exactly the same. So like whatever we're going to put here on the left side of the equal sign, you're going to put it over here on the right side of the equal sign. And to figure that out, you take this minus 18, okay, and you cut it in half and then square it. So can you tell me what goes in this placeholder position, please?
So it would be a negative or positive?
It's always positive when you square it.
Okay. $81.
81. So you put plus 81 plus 81. So it's kind of like, so you got a brother and a sister, you understand it's like what one person gets, the other gets. Now, maybe that's not always true, but in this problems we're going to do, you're always going to put the same number on the left as you do the right. Okay. Now I'm just going to rewrite it here just so that we can focus our attention on this next line here. So on the left here, this is what's called a perfect square trinomial. And I know we did a lesson on this. What you have to do is take the square root of the first term and the square root of the last term, and that's what goes in parentheses. So it's x and then a 9. And then students always ask, well, what goes in the middle here? It's whatever this sign is, minus, and then it's squared. So this x right here comes from the square root of x squared. That's called your a. The 9 is the square root of 81, your b. And you always put that square on the outside. Any questions on that?
No.
We're gonna do a few examples. And then this equals 87 because I'm adding these two numbers together. And then depending on the problem, you may have to move this number back over. Okay, so it could look like this: x minus 9 squared plus 87. So we're going to do a few of these sort of completing the square type problems. And I'm sorry, I need to subtract that. Boy, that was bad. You're subtracting it, not adding it. Subtracting 87 from both sides. Okay. So now let's look at a new problem here. Let's go x squared minus 6x plus 3 equals 0. Okay. So step 1, when you're solving by completing the square, solving by CTS is what I call it, completing the square, is to move this number, this 3 over to the other side. So you're going to subtract 3 from both sides. X squared minus 6x equals minus 3. Okay, and then from here, okay, this is where you got to figure out what goes in this position and what goes in this position. So can you tell me that number?
Nine.
It's 9 plus 9 plus 9. Now our goal on the left here is to figure out what to put inside parentheses squared. And it's just like the last problem. It comes from this first term and this last term. You have to take the square root of x squared and the square root of 9. So that's x and then 3. And then the sign comes from the middle here. Okay, so this equals 6 on the right-hand side. And then you move this back over by subtracting 6 from both sides. So your final answer is x minus 3 squared minus 6 equals 0. Any questions on these steps? Okay. Let's try another one. Let's go x squared plus 10x plus 24 equals 0. All right, so what is the first thing that we do in these types of problems? What did we do in the other examples?
You squared 10.
Nope. Let's go back up and look. Okay. This was our original problem here, x squared minus 6x plus 3. What did I do over here on the right?
You subtract 3. Like,
Yeah, and you can't see it, but there was an empty spot, an empty place here.
oh, okay.
Okay, so we're going to do that. You're going to subtract 24 from both sides. X squared plus 10x, leave a space, equals minus 24, and leave a space.
The answer for the spaces is 5.
Nope, you already told me it earlier.
Really?
It was 25, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you told me that. You said, because I know you divided this by 2 and then you squared it. Okay, so this becomes on the left, what goes inside parentheses?
On the left is x. On the right is 25.
Look back in your notes here, because we always do something to
Oh,
figure.
yeah, okay. It's true.
You have to take the square root of this number here, and it's always a perfect square, so it always has a square root.
5
Okay, and then what goes in the middle? Is it plus or minus?
plus.
It's plus because of that right there. On the right, what does this equal?
5.
Minus 24 plus 25.
Oh, 1.
1. Okay, and then we move this back by subtracting 1 from both sides. Okay, so your final answer is x plus 5 squared minus 1.
Okay.
Do you have this down in your notes? Because I really, the goal is to get, here's the goal, Jeremiah, it's to be able to have you go from line 1 down here to line 3 or line 4. Any questions on this?
Nope.
Okay. Let me know when you get this down. I'll give you one to try here.
Done.
Okay. So let's have you try this one. X squared plus 8x plus 7 equals 0. So I want you to go through the same steps that we just went through.
Is it 36?
I'm looking, so here's what I'm looking for, Jeremiah. I'm looking for a final line like this.
Oh, okay.
It's not a number. It's an expression. If you have questions, please ask.
Okay. What's the square root of 7?
So, okay, again, I don't, you're way off track here. So let's just work this out together. The first step is to move the 7 over. Okay, we've done that every problem. You always move that first number over. So it's x squared plus 8x, leave a space, equals -7, leave a space.
That's why I got mixed up.
Yeah, and so from here, you got to figure out what goes in this position on both sides.
$16.
Right? Do you want to keep working this out from here? Or do you have
Um,
questions?
I think I got it.
Okay.
Okay, I think I have it.
Okay. What goes in parentheses here?
X plus 8.
Okay, it's not 8. It comes from this last number here. It's the square root of 16.
16. No, that's not. Is it 6?
Nope. How did you get 16? Tell me how you got 16. Because you'll get your answer. 8.
I split 8 in half and then times it's 4.
So right. So 8 cut in half is 4. 4 squared is 16. So you're going backwards. Do you see how that when you cut 8 in half, that's the number that goes in here?
Okay.
Okay. And then on the right hand side, it's 9. And then you subtract 9 from both sides. So you get x plus 4 squared minus 9. Okay, let's have you verbalize the steps for me. What's the first thing that we did in this problem?
I've
Up here.
subtracted 7 from both sides.
That's right. And then you leave this space. Why do you leave this space on both sides? What do you do with that space?
You figure out what goes in it.
And how do you figure out that number?
You cut 8 in half and then times whatever.
You square it. So you cut it in half and then square it. Square means multiply by itself. Okay, good. And then how do you figure out what goes in parentheses?
Well, the first letter is X, and then you can put the plus down, and you figure out the square root of 16. No,
Whatever that number is, yeah.
16.
Okay, and on the right hand side, what do you do with these two numbers?
Alexa, off. Sorry.
You didn't tell me Alexa's been listening into our lessons all these months. Kidding. All right, -7 plus 16. So you add those together on the right, and then you move that number back over. Okay, I know there's a lot of steps here. Okay, But you can't tell me this is more complicated than something you do, every day of your life. It's just step one, step two, step three, step four, and step five. You can do this. Let's try another one here. Let's go x squared minus 2x. Oops, I don't need that parenthesis. Get rid of that. Minus 15.
Okay.
So why don't you tell me the first step to do?
You subtract 15 from 15 and 0.
Okay, but it's already negative, so instead of
So
subtracting,
you add 15 to both sides.
that's right. Okay, so it's x squared minus 2x equals 15. Now what's our next?
We split 2 in half and square it.
Okay.
So that's 1.
It's 1. So where does the 1 go?
In right in between 15 and 16. And
So it goes to the right of the minus 2x and to the right of 15.
yes.
Okay. Now, well, how do you figure out what goes in parentheses?
You put the x down parentheses and then the minus sign,
Okay.
and then you figure out the square root of 1, which is 1.
Yes. What about on the right?
If no, 16.
Okay. And is there anything else left to do?
I don't think so.
You have to move the 16 over. How do you move it over?
You subtract 16.
Subtract 16 from both sides. Okay, so that's x minus 1 squared minus 16. And this is when you're done. Okay. You ready to try one on your own here?
Sure.
You can do this on your own. I promise you. It's no different than the previous ones. I'm just coming up with new numbers each time. Yeah, do plus 32. Those are okay. Go ahead and work this out. If you have questions, please ask.
Okay.
How are you doing on this one?
Fine. My brain's tired, so I'm not having a little trouble.
All right, definitely need some time here to work this out if you've got questions.
Um,
Do you have an answer for me?
so far I have. Parentheses x minus 3 parentheses minus 32.
Okay. Okay, so let me work this out for you again so you can see it. Did you subtract 32 from both sides?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so now we put a placeholder there, and I've done it. I mean, I would do it if I were you. To figure out what goes there, you take half of this number right here. What is half of this number?
6,
-6. You square it and you get
3.
no
Oh,
square.
60. Um,
6 times
64.
6. 6 times 6.
Um, 36.
36. Okay. None of this is beyond you. It's not complicated stuff. It feels that way, but it's really not. Now, in terms of what goes in parentheses, you have to take the square root of that last number, which is 6, and then is it plus or minus in the middle?
Minus.
Okay, equals. Now on the right, what is minus 32 plus 36?
4.
4. And then the last step here is to move this over to the other side. X minus 6 squared minus 4. Okay, so last, I guess, thought or comment here, and I guess I meant to do this earlier because I know you got questions here. Let's just say, like, I'll just give you an example here, and I know you could just click the right answer now on this one, but I'll just add this point. You should be able to graph the original, and then one of these will be the same if you were to graph. Like if you go to Desmos and you plot this one, and then one of these will look exactly like that. It'll be right on top. So that may help you with some of the other problems that we were not able to get to tonight. All right, so that was it. Good job. I know it's tough sometimes getting back into it, but we'll see you on Thursday, and we'll just keep working on some of the stuff, whatever we got to work on.
Okay.
All right, have a great rest of your night, Jeremiah.
You too.
Okay, bye now.
Bye.